always from the heart of the city, and now on demand 24/7 on the CHFI website. This is the soundtrack to accompany your passions. And I'm Don Jackson, around the world on the internet. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, from The Wheel of Life, published by Scribner, wrote, "I have never met a person whose greatest need was anything other than real, unconditional love. You can find it in a simple act of kindness towards someone who needs help. There is no mistaking love. You feel it in your heart. It is the common fiber of life, the flame that heats our soul, supplies passion to our lives, and energizes our spirit. It is our connection to God and to each other." Unquote. We're exploring passion this hour with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com.
You ain't right, Ray.
Ray Charles with Natalie Cole and Fever, a good description of what passion can feel like. The Beatles, Till There Was You, and Roberta Flack, Killing Me Softly. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. It's that crossover season when one major sport comes to an end while another begins. And our passions are either peaked or are just beginning to stir. The World Series pits the finest in Major League Baseball against one another, while hockey, basketball, and football teams are still finding their footing at this point in November 2009. Barbara DeAngelis, in her bestseller Passion, published by Delacorte, wrote, and I quote, "Something in our human nature longs for that experience of complete emotional absorption, that magical moment when we are swept away. It is passion that entertains us. When a book is written without passion, you lose interest. When a team plays without passion, the game becomes boring. To feed this appetite, we reward those who can stir our emotions to the greatest heights. Actors, athletes, and rock musicians make millions because they know how to turn on our passion." Barbara DeAngelis in her bestseller Passion, published by Delacorte. We're exploring passion this hour with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Bryan Adams, Have You Ever Really Loved a Woman? And Toni Braxton with a Spanish guitar. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com for this November 3rd, 2009. This is a quote from the book The Romance Factor by Alan Loy McGuinness. The writer George Weinberg was quoted as saying, "You've been in love. You know what it's like. It's a sense of delight, not just in the person you love, but in all people, in yourself, in life. Suddenly, you see beauty, excitement everywhere. You're not afraid to express your love, passionately, gently, in words, or in silence. And you feel strong, generous, fully alive." The words of George Weinberg seem to show how passion can color your life. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Gerry Rafferty, Right Down the Line, and Tamia with Quincy Jones from the CD Q's Juke Joint. And you put a move on my heart. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. One of my great passions is gardening. We've talked about it on the radio show for years. May Sarton from Plant Dreaming Deep, published by Norton, wrote, "Making a garden is not a gentle hobby for the elderly, to be picked up and laid down like a game of solitaire. It is a grand passion. It seizes a person whole, and once it has done so, he will have to accept that his life is going to be radically changed. There are seasons when he will hesitate to travel, and if he does, his mind will be distracted by the 1,001 children he has left behind, children who are always in peril of one sort or another. However sober he may have been before, he will soon become an inveterate gambler who cuts his losses and begins again. He may think he intends to pare down on spending energy and money, but that is an illusion. And he soon learns that a garden is an ever-expanding venture. Whatever he had considered to be his profession has become an avocation. His vocation is his garden." May Sarton, from Plant Dreaming Deep, published by Norton. The writer S.R. Holt wrote, "He who would have beautiful roses in his garden must have beautiful roses in his heart. He must love them well and always. He must have not only the glowing admiration, the enthusiasm, and the passion, but the tenderness, the thoughtfulness, the reverence, the watchfulness of love." And Joseph Addison said, "Love is a second life. It grows into the soul, warms every vein, and beats in every pulse." For November 3rd, 2009, Lovers and Other Strangers, and a study in passion from iTunes and CHFI.com. Doobie Brothers, featuring Michael McDonald and Minute by Minute, and Romantica and Fantasie. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Some truths about passion now. Goethe wrote, "Like everything else, which is not the involuntary result of fleeting emotion, but the creation of time and will, any marriage, happy or unhappy, is infinitely more interesting and significant than any romance, however passionate." And Leo Buscaglia, in his book Born for Love, Reflections on Loving, published by Slack some years back, wrote, "Love is an emotion of extremes. It challenges our patience, our understanding, and our resources. It heightens our perceptions and increases our energy and vitality. It is not for the easily defeated or the quickly disillusioned. If we are determined to be lovers, we shall have to accept and acknowledge our passions. Of course, we risk being led into mysterious, uncharted, hazardous places. But we can be assured that our lives will never be dull. Unquote. Leo Buscaglia. Wonderful book, Born for Love, Reflections on Loving, published by Slack. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Miley Cyrus with The Climb, and Colbie, Caillat, and Fallin for you. And I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Finally, this hour, Soren Kierkegaard with another passionate truth. If I were to wish for anything, I should not wish for wealth and power, but for the passionate sense of potential, for the eye that ever young and ardent sees the possible. Pleasure disappoints. Possibility? Never. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.